24th of November today, and what will be our final ad hoc committee meeting for this year. We have a number of reports to adopt, so we will be doing that during the course of this morning. I'd like to welcome you all, as well as to our procedural officers, Ms. Kluter and Ms. Adams. I have received a number of apologies. I'm going to go through those now. I've received an apology from Honourable Bosman, and Honourable Mackenzie is standing in for him today. Then we have received an apology from Honourable Heron, Honourable Christians, and Honourable Trejo. Those are the apologies we have received. Are there any further apologies that need to be tabled at this point? None? All right, then let's just get into the rules of engagement quickly, which you're all very familiar with. All members were muted at the beginning of the meeting to avoid background noises. If members could please flag any points of order by either using the raise hand function or by using the chat function on Microsoft Teams. We ask that video and audio be switched off in order to improve the quality of the connection. However, if you are making a contribution, please do use your camera and microphone, and once you have concluded, to please turn them off. We won't have any presentations today, but in the event that we do have one, once the presentation has concluded, if the presenter would unshare their screen. And of course, as usual, we're using the directives for sittings of the House and meetings of committees by electronic means, which were ATC'd on the 17th of April. All right, so with that said, let's move on to the consideration of our reports. Let's start then with the draft committee activities report for September 2020. These were circulated about a week ago. So the report for September, let's just quickly have a look at attendance for members to make sure that it is correctly captured. This is again our citizen engagement program during the month of September. We can go down, the blurb is the same as for the other month's reports. Okay. All right, so we're on page 3. Any edits or amendments there? Page 4. Any edits or amendments? Page 5. Page 6. If there are any edits or amendments to a particular page, please just indicate so. If there are none for this page, then let's move on to page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. And 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 16, 17, 18, page 19. And then finally, page 20. Are there any edits or amendments to the September report? If none, can we proceed to adopt? Could I have a proposer and a seconder, please?
Move to adopt.
Thank you, Honourable.
Van der Westhuizen.
Thank you, Honourable Bartman and Honourable van der Westhuizen. The draft committee activities report for September 2020 is then duly adopted. Let's then move to the draft committee activities report for October. Again, I think we can just move through the first few pages as they are the same for all reports. Okay, then page 3. These are the reports of our working groups. Page 4. Page 5. And moving on to page 6. And 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. Page 12. And 13. Page 14. And then moving on to page 15, which continues the recommendations. And then finally in page 16. All right. Are there any amendments or edits to the committee report? And if none, can we move to adopt?
Chair.
Honourable van der Westhuizen.
No, thank you, Chair. I propose that we adopt the report, but may I just ask that perhaps the function in Microsoft Word of a page break be used, because in some instances the heading to a paragraph appears right at the bottom of a page. There's also the function in Microsoft Word to say that, you know, that heading must be followed by a paragraph, so that we don't have some cases where there's, for example, an example on the screen now where I think, you know, the food support availability deals with what is on the following page. And I see some of the ways in which page breaks have been enforced, and is to do a number of enters. So it doesn't change the content, but I just think in terms of, you know, reprinting of this for future use, it would be good if we could have those headings with the respective following paragraphs. But I propose that we adopt the contents, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable van der Westhuizen. I don't think there'll be any objections, but let me just put it to the committee that we look at all the reports that we are considering today, and that page breaks be inserted at each new paragraph going over a page, so that the style remains the same, and that in the different formats, the intention of the reading of the paragraph remains constant. Are there any objections to that? None. Okay, so we will take that on board. Thank you very much for that recommendation. Also, Honourable van der Westhuizen has then proposed that we adopt the committee activity report for October. Could I please have a seconder?
America, morning.
Thank you very much, Honourable America. The draft committee activities report for October 2020 is then adopted. And then we move on to the draft final committee report of the committee for this year, which is a substantial document, so I'm not going to go page by page. It was sent to members more than a week ago, so I'm sure members have had time to read through it. So what I'm going to do is just break it up. Then can we adopt page 1 to 4? And so specifically, I'm going to page 1 to 4 so that we can deal with this section on page 5 separately. So up to before this ATC section, to the end of, to the end of page 4. There we go. Stop. Can we adopt the final report up to page 4?
That's fine, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Mackenzie and van der Westhuizen. Then if we could move on to page 5. There we go. You'll see this paragraph is highlighted, and this is the list of reports that we have tabled in the House. There are 2 reports that we have now adopted this morning. I'd like to ask if we could include them in the final report, as indicated on the screen.
Agreed,
Yeah,
Chair.
fine.
Thank you very much. We will obviously not have the ATC date at this stage, but if the committee agrees, if it is before publication, could we add in the ATC numbers?
That's fine.
Agreed.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Then can we agree to adopt page 5 with amendments?
That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Mackenzie and Bartman. Then can we adopt page 6 to 94?
Chair,
Yes, Honourable van der Westhuizen.
Chair, if one does a quick search by using the Microsoft Word find function, you will find that there are a number of references to at the date of writing, or
Yes.
at the time of writing, sorry. And I was just, I want to propose that we rather than include a fixed date, because it refers to figures or circumstances, you know, at the at a specific date, but we don't know what that date is. And if you will allow me, Chair, first just to say I'm extremely impressed by this report, and also the language used, the way in which it has been compiled. I believe that this may become a very important reference document for future academic research as well. And therefore, I would just like to propose that when we deal with figures, that we deal with specific dates in the text of this document. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable van der Westhuizen. That's a very helpful suggestion. You know, in drafting it once, you know, there's always ways and means to improve it. So could we then propose that wherever in the document it appears at the time of writing, that be then changed to be amended to today's date?
Support, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable America. All right, so we will then edit the document. Honourable Mackenzie.
Chairperson, if I may, and I think that the last point Mr. van der Westhuizen made was actually quite an important point. Once the document has been approved by us, can we, as a committee, task you and the administration, given, and I do appreciate, we're probably the first parliament in this continent that would have drafted a report like this, just for spell checking, because this will become, someone's going to do research on this to see what the Western Cape Parliament has done in 2020, to ensure that the proper spell check has been done, not doubting what has been done to date, but you know, we are human beings, and I must think sometimes as well. Just to ensure, so when this goes into the record books, that the document has been properly spell checked. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we will obviously double check the document. It has been checked for spelling, but you know, there's always you know, room for a double and a triple check. So we will double check, triple check for spelling. We will insert page breaks, and then we will change at the time of writing to today's date. And with those edits and amendments, can we adopt pages 6 to 94?
That's right.
Chairperson, moving for adoption of those.
Thank you. And the reason I'm only going to page 94 is because on page 95 and 96 appear the recommendations. So I'd like us just to quickly have a look and discuss those. So the recommendations that appear here are the recommendations that were made by the committee in our previous meeting in October following the public participation program. They were just regrouped. And where there was repetition, the repetition was removed. But these are the recommendations that the committee has already approved. But I'd like us to discuss if we would like to include any further recommendations on the committee's, for the recommendations of the committee. I have included the first two, which we had discussed but not formally adopted, which was one, that the report be considered by the House. Can we agree that the report be considered by the House?
Agreed.
Thank you. And then the second is that a copy of the report be sent to the Premier and the DG of the Western Cape, as well as all organisations and entities that participated in the work of the committee. So that would be all the government departments, all the NGOs and civil society organisations that either presented or participated in our work.
Chairperson?
Yes, Honourable Mackenzie.
Sorry, if I may, I know at some point we obviously invited various national government departments throughout this last 6 or 7 months. Some did arrive, and I think one or two did not. If we can, I think your suggestion include everyone, that
Yes.
everyone gets a copy of this report. Yeah.
Yeah, so anybody that presented to the committee will receive a copy of the report. That is the intention of that proposal. Honourable Dugmore.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just when you get to point number 7, I'd just like an opportunity to speak on that. I'm just concerned at the wording and what the implication of that actually is. I don't know if I can do that now, or will you just indicate when I can speak on recommendation 7?
Okay, let me just deal with recommendation 2 first, and then we'll get there. Thank you. All right, so are we in agreement that we can include recommendation number 2?
Agreed, Chairperson.
Thank you. Then recommendation 3, from recommendation 3 onwards, are recommendations that the committee has already adopted in our previous meeting on the public participation program. That being said, we can add to those, or we can look at the form if we'd like to change the not the substance of it, but the wording slightly to make it better. So if I may, Honourable Dugmore, I'd like to make a proposal on recommendation 5, which is the UIF should open the offices in order for stakeholders to access their funds, which is a recommendation we have adopted. But what I'd like to propose is that recommendation number 16, which is outstanding UIF grants should be paid out and UIF should be easily contactable by applicants. Again, another recommendation that we have already adopted. Could we perhaps move then that recommendation up so that the 2 recommendations dealing with the UIF follow one after the other?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed.
Chair.
Thank you. So then, yeah. Thank you very much, Saida, for changing it. All right,
Chair.
so, Honourable Dugmore.
Yeah, Chair. Yeah, I'm just trying to work out what's happened to the point that I'd raised, because it's now seems to be off the screen.
It's now
Number 8.
It's now number 8. No. Number 7. It's okay. It's back at number 7. Yeah. My concern, and I apologize if this has been adopted before, but my understanding of all the, whether it's the increase in child support, the increase allocation for pensioners, UIF, the 350, there was absolutely no race-based allocation. Those are tests linked to poverty. Now, it is a bit of an issue, I suppose, if this has been adopted before. But Chairperson, I'm not aware of any of these allocations being made on the basis of race.
Thank you, Honourable Dugmore. Honourable van der Westhuizen.
Sorry, Chair, mine has to do with actually the paragraphs above that.
Okay, please proceed.
Yes. Now, can I just say, when we adopted the recommendation that unemployment insurance fund officers should be more approachable, etc., my impression is that, you know, some of these recommendations are a bit time linked, in the sense that my impression is that the Department of Labour and unemployment insurance fund officers have reopened after the initial lockdown. But the problem remains that there are serious backlogs. And I was just wondering if we now cut and paste from previous recommendations, which were time bound, that, you know, putting them under today's date might say something which we don't quite mean to say now. So for me, the important thing is the backlogs, the people that still feel that their applications have not been dealt with correctly, that they would like to appeal certain decisions, etc. But the offices are no longer, as far as I know, completely closed.
Thank you, Honourable Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I don't mind if we put dates by when we made the respective resolutions, because those were also dealt with as they came and went. I'm just concerned if we're changing resolutions that we've previously made, because we're all part of this committee, and if resolutions were not agreed to, then it should have been raised at the time that they were put forward. And also, majority of the things that we're putting into this report is also based on information that we got from the public, because we also had work groups and had to summarize information from the public. So, Chair, I don't want us to change resolutions simply because we think the resolutions must now be changed. But perhaps, as Honourable van der Westhuizen said, perhaps it must be better if we put them as per the dates when we took the resolutions, and perhaps that would assist us in this regard.
Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Honourable Dugmore.
Yeah, Chairperson, I think Honourable van der Westhuizen has drawn our attention to an important issue. As far as I understand, what we're going through now is the final report. So the issue is, in terms of it needs to be written as recommendations are being made, you know, as of today. So I think we need to be careful about simply repeating resolutions which were made at a particular time. So his point on the UIF, you know, it would be similar. I think the key issue for now for us to recommend is like dealing with the backlogs. But, you know, it's, if we're recommending that an office must be open and it's already open, it just doesn't add to the credibility of these recommendations, which are essentially the final recommendations. And I think that's a very valid point. So it should be written in a way that, you know, takes into account what has happened, you know, over the process, but we now at this point in time, and these are the final recommendations. So I think that's a valid point, and I think some tweaking of the, I think it was paragraph 16, you know, could actually accurately reflect what the current problem is now. And yes, as I say, I can't, I think I was absent on one or two occasions. So the issue of the race-based issue, but if we are making a serious recommendation at the end of this report, I think it's about access to, you know, to the 350s. But the reality of it is that there is not a race-based criteria for any of the allocations which have emerged during COVID. So I think it might be just open us up to an unnecessary attack on the basis of inaccuracy.
Honourable Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I don't agree with Honourable Dugmore. The reality is, and I want to latch on to what Honourable Bartman has said previously, the reality is that these are recommendations that was previously adopted that must form part of the final report.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't just disregard people's lived realities.
Yes, yes.
So I completely disagree with Honourable Dugmore.
All right. Thank you, members, for your
Chair, do we have
inputs.
evidence? Do we have evidence to back up the fact that someone was excluded on the basis of race?
Right. So, right, I'm going to go through all the points now that have been raised. Okay, so the first is if we can just go, I take Honourable van der Westhuizen's point, which was supported by Honourable Dugmore. So what I'm going to propose for recommendation number 5 is that we could amend it then to in all levels of lockdown. I wonder if you could type it up, please. Thank you. Comma. The UIF officers should remain open. We delete their officers in order for stakeholders to access their funds. That firstly achieves the intention of the recommendation as adopted by the committee, but secondly then it deals with the issue of it being time bound. So we don't know if we may find ourselves in another lockdown in the future, and so the recommendation then is self-sustaining in this way. So then, as it is on your screen, can we agree to the amendment of recommendation 5?
Support.
In order, Chair.
Thank you. Then the recommendation from the UIF that moves up to, which will then, will move up to then become the new number 6. If we can just have a look at it so that we can add the backlogs to there. Outstanding UIF. Why not just copy and paste? There we go. Outstanding UIF grants should be paid out. So we need to add the backlogs. Outstanding UIF grants, if we could insert after grants and backlogs should be should we use the word eradicated?
Addressed is perhaps
Addressed.
a little bit softer.
I think that's a better word. Should be addressed and paid out. And further, the UIF should be easily contactable by applicants.
Yeah.
Is everyone happy with that amended recommendation?
Yes,
Well done.
Supported.
Thank you very much. All right, then we're going to move to what will now be recommendation number 8, which was raised by Honourable Dugmore. Financial support should be given to all affected people, not just on the basis of race. Honourable Dugmore, we heard that the Tourism Support Fund was based on BEE criteria and that was the reason for the recommendation, which also came out in the public participation process.
Thank you, Chair. Then, Chair, I think we should be specific that we were, sorry, let me put up my hand. Sorry, Chair, I see Honourable Bartman also wants to speak. My issue is simply then we should report that, because the impression created by the current version is that the grants in general, whereas this is, and I recall there was a dispute about this particular issue. I think we should be specific to say then what grant we're talking about, where there were concerns raised about that issue. But the impression created by the current wording is that this impacted across, whether it's UIF or the additional grants to pensioners and child support and plus the 350s. But if that was the issue, then I think we should be specific about that issue.
Okay, thank you. Honourable America.
Chair, I would suggest that in that instance that we can simply just add after people and businesses, not just on the basis of race. Then we include, there maybe were people who were excluded in terms of our public participation process that suggested that they were excluded on the basis of their race. So to obviate the concern raised by Honourable Dugmore, maybe we can simply just add people or businesses, not, and then we include a wider spectrum. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honourable Bartman.
Thank you, Chair, and I apologize if my voice is not that amazing today, but Chair, if I remember correctly, this particular resolution came out of the public participation process, and I don't mind if the aim of changing the resolution is to make it more clear what the original was and how it came out. But I do have an objection to changing the content of the resolution, because changing content and making it more clear are two different things. And if it's coming from the public participation process where we had work groups, we had political parties, all different political parties on all of the work groups. The work groups in the end came together. We had a committee meeting where we agreed to the resolutions that we're putting forward based on the working groups and what came out of the public participation process, where we had to summarize what people on the ground felt, what people on the ground want, and how things are affecting people on the ground. So if we're going to be changing the content of the resolution, then I'm going to object to that. But if it's simply to make it clearer or to maybe go back to what original was based on the working group, then I'm fine with that, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Honourable Bartman.
Sorry, Chair.
Honourable van der Westhuizen.
Chair, I think our problem that we have here is again that a decision taken previously, when it's taken out of its context, loses or may cause some problems. And perhaps I think it has been confirmed just earlier this morning that this sentence actually referred to the Tourism Aid Fund. And then I think, but now in this context, obviously and I think that's the problem that Honourable Dugmore is, when we speak about financial support, we do not qualify it as this financial support for the tourism industry. And I think if that is where the problem lies, let's then just refer specifically to, that problematic stipulation that we found with the tourism industry's aid fund. And therefore, I would ask that we consider qualifying and say financial support to the tourism industry should be given to all affected people and not on the basis of race. That is my proposal, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable van der Westhuizen. Could we then perhaps amend what is now Resolution 8 then to read something along the lines of financial support should be given to all affected people, not, if we could change the word just to only, or to all affected, not on the basis of race. We remove the word just, and then we put a dash after race, or no, just remove only altogether. Sorry, I changed my mind. So it reads better, and then we put a dash after race. As was the case with the Tourism Support Fund.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, would that be acceptable? So we've then qualified what this is referring to.
Chair, could I just suggest adding one word?
What is your proposal?
As was raised by the tourism sector in regard to the Tourism Support Fund.
All right. Can we then amend it as was raised by
the tourism sector in regard to the Tourism Support Fund? Thank you very much, Chair.
Can we then agree to this new resolution? Well, not new. It's now newly numbered Resolution 8, as it appears on your screen. Financial support should be given to all affected people, not just on the basis of race, as was raised by the tourism sector in regard to the Tourism Support Fund. If we could just capitalize support and fund. Okay, can we then agree to this amended resolution?
Agreed.
Thank you, honourable members. Then recommendation 9, 10, 11, are there any further points? I have one on resolution what was 10. I think it's 11 now. No, sorry, I've obviously got my numbering wrong. Psychological support. Okay, sorry, I've obviously got my lines crossed here. Sorry, it's number resolution 20, which is probably resolution 21. If we could then change during the last few months, resolution 20. Sorry, the numbering doesn't seem to have pulled through. Would it be possible to amend the resolution, not to change the substance, but just the wording? So that would then read, should there be a return to hard lockdowns, comma, government should review regulations. Relating to social distancing and visitations to family members, comma, to avoid contradictory regulations. Full stop. So the substance remains the same, it's just the wording that is amended. Can we agree to that? Agreed.
In order, Chair.
Honourable Dugmore, I see your hand.
No, Chair, mine was in regard to the 21.
Okay, so the next one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's just that I don't quite understand that sentence. It says the closure of ECD centres was a flawed regulation. I don't think that actually makes sense.
Okay, so what is your proposal?
You know, I mean, what regulation? What regulation is actually being referred to here? One of the state of disaster regulations. Is that what he's being referred to?
Yes, so that was when in the regulations for lockdown levels, the higher lockdown regulations, which ECD centres were not allowed to open.
Yeah, I would just like to suggest that the closure of ECD centres in terms of regulations issues had unintended consequences and should be reconsidered. because I mean, like schools were closed. I mean, you know, it had unintended consequences, but I just think that's a better way of putting it.
Okay, so the proposal then is the closure of ECD centres through disaster management regulations.
Yeah. Had
Could we add
unintended
that?
yeah, had unintended consequences.
So the closure of ECD centres.
Sorry, Chairperson, can you just repeat that? I'm going to start with 21.
Okay, the closure of ECD centres through disaster management regulations.
Yeah.
Had unintended consequences. And then delete was a flawed regulation.
Yeah, I think so.
If we've just, there we go. All right, so that is then the proposal. I see Honourable Bartman and Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, if I remember correctly, this one came out of our respective workshop from the public participation, if I remember that correctly, because I think number 22 is also from ours, so I think those are all together. And Chair, firstly, everything we do in this ad hoc committee is in terms of the disaster management regulations. So the first thing is whether we say regulations or disaster management regulations, it's not going to make a difference because everything that we're doing, the reason that we are here is because of the disaster management regulations. That's the first part. The second part, Chair, is that a flawed regulation and something having unintended consequences are two completely different things. Something can, for example, be a flawed regulation, which means that it shouldn't have been done, and something can have unintended consequences based on whether or not it should have been done. But those are two different things. So if we want to amend it, I would like the flawed regulation to be contained in that because it's a summary of what we got from the public participation. But we can include the unintended consequences because that also have unintended consequences. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair. I'm confident the fact Honourable Bartman calculated everything is through the Disaster Management Act. So I'm covered.
Thank you, Honourable Mitchell. So just a note, in the beginning of the report, we do say that regulations, the reference to regulations means disaster management regulations. So I would then propose that we have a look at it this way. The closure of ECD centres through regulations without disaster management, because that would be implied anyway. We could then say was flawed and had unintended consequences. Okay, so then that incorporates both Honourable Dugmore and Honourable Bartman's inputs. Can we live with this recommendation 21?
Agree.
Honourable Dugmore?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, thank you, Chair. I think that's a better way of capturing that issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on. Anything for 22, 23 or 24? '25, 26, 27.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes, Honourable van der Westhuizen.
I think it was 22. It's tourists that test negative, not the countries that test negative. Perhaps that sentence could just be slightly changed. Tourists that test negative from all countries, that test negative for the virus from all countries should be allowed.
Thank you for picking that up. So it should be tourists
that test negative for the virus.
Should we just say foreign tourists? Because that would then imply from other countries. foreign tourists, and then remove from all countries that test negative for the virus should be allowed to travel to South Africa.
Thank you.
Can we agree to that?
Agree.
Thank you. 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. I'd like to just tweak 28 if possible. To government should review the social aspect of providing better support to vulnerable populations. And then just add a S. And then delete who are in vulnerable situations and leave the bracket as is. I think it just reads a little bit better like that. And remove the colon as well. Okay, are we happy with that?
Agreed.
Okay. 29, 30, okay, and then I think that's the end of the, okay, if we could just go up a little bit. So then that's the resolutions as contained or that we've now tweaked from the public participation plus the 2 new ones at the start. I'd also like to then propose 2 new resolutions, if I may. The first is that as a recommendation 30, that the committee thanks and appreciates all government departments and civil society members that appeared before the committee, comma, assisting it in its work. Okay. Honourable van der Westhuizen.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for this paragraph. May I just propose that this is not a recommendation, but we perhaps make it a closing paragraph under the heading closing or in conclusion or
I think it is contained in there. Okay, all right, so then we will delete that recommendation. You're quite right, because it is contained in the concluding remarks. Okay, all right, so then let's just go back to recommendations. Are there any additional recommendations that we would like to make in addition to these presented and that we have discussed here? None? All right, so then can we adopt page 95 and 96 with amendments as agreed to?
I propose.
Thank you, Honourable van der Westhuizen.
Support.
Thank you, Honourable Bartman. Then can we adopt pages 97 to 130? Unless there are any...
May I speak to this?
Yes, Honourable van der Westhuizen.
Chair, this is now covering all the appendices. And I've just been wondering because, as I've said earlier, I think this will hopefully become quite an important document for people when they do even formal study regarding the response. And could I ask that we also include those government gazettes that spelled out the regulations as a easy source of reference for future students that might find it quite useful. Also, in the document, we sometimes refer to the regulations and, we discuss the regulations. And I just think it would be best if the original wording of those regulations as per the Government Gazette could be included as appendices to the document.
So, Honourable President, you're suggesting that include as the as one of the appendices all the disaster management regulations.
I hear you. Okay, I'll deal with it today.
Honourable Mitchell.
As published in the Gazettes, correct.
Okay. Look, I think that's a helpful suggestion. I think that might take the document into thousands of pages. I wonder if we could, what would be the best way to go about including them?
Chair, there are different ways. The first one is to make a short summary of the Government Gazettes. I must say my impression has been that they didn't cover that many pages, and sometimes, you know, it was just a very brief one to recall certain initial lockdown regulations, etc. But an alternate way would just be to summarize the references to the websites or the internet addresses where those Government Gazettes have been officially published.
Okay, so why don't we do it that way? We'll then have a list of all the regulations. So we'll say Government Gazette 25 March 2020, Gazette number XYZ. Then regulation 2 of 25 of March, Government Gazette XYZ, and then have a full list of all the disaster management regulations. And then in the title, we'll just say from the first date of the declaration of the disaster up until today's date.
Thank you. Most helpful.
Are other committee members in this list of I think it's up. Annexures, we're calling them annexures. So on page 101. No, let's go to page 101. There we go. Then we'll have that annexure F. List of disaster management regulations relating to the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, all right. Can we then adopt pages 97 to 130 with the amendments and that list that will be inserted into the document? Can we adopt it so?
I support that.
Thank you, Honourable van der Westhuizen. And then finally, I'm putting the document in toto to the committee, page 1 to 130 with edits as discussed in the committee. Could I please have a proposer?
I propose, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Mitchell, I think it was.
Yes.
And a seconder, please.
Seconded.
Thank you, Honourable Bartman. All right, so this mammoth amount of work is now adopted in our report. I'd like to thank Ms. Zaida Adams and Ms. Lizette Klutter for the very hard work that they've done in putting this report together, as well as to the very hard work that they have done for the committee throughout this year and the 9 months that the ad hoc committee has been in operation. They really have been absolutely amazing with the tremendous amount of report writing and organizing and liaising to make sure that we could do our work successfully. So on behalf of the committee, thank you very much, Zaida. Thank you very much, Lizette. We're very grateful for your very hard work.
Yeah.
Here, here.
Yeah.
Right, and then I'd like to thank all of you. It's been a very difficult year and we've done a lot of work. We've spent many hours in this ad hoc committee. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you for your inputs and your efforts in enabling this committee to do the work that it has done during the course of this year. So thank you sincerely from me to you. I see two hands. I see Honourable Syed.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much to the rest of the committee. I just wanted to check if we could add, when the report is being tabled, if the committee support staff can be thanked inside of that report, so that it's mentioned in the House and they get that particular recognition, because I mean, really, their effort has really been immense. I want to echo what you have said. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Syed, Honourable Mitchell, and then Honourable American.
Thank you, Chair. I think it would be remiss of us as a committee to not acknowledge the incredible work that you have done as Chair during this 9 months. Thank you for the manner in which you chaired this committee. Thank you for allowing the members of this committee to actively be participants throughout the 9 months. But above all, thank you for creating a space and a voice for the citizens of the Western Cape. The amount of work is evident in this report that we have just adopted. And I think on behalf of all members of this committee, we acknowledge the immense role that you've played in putting together this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honourable Mitchell and members. I'm very grateful for those words of thanks. Thank you very much. And so we come to the end of the committee for this year. Honourable Syed raised a point of the report to be considered in the House. So we have adopted the resolution that the report be considered in the House, and it was raised with the Programming Authority this morning. So correspondence will go out later today for when we will be able to debate the report in the House, which will be this year still. And then finally, from my side, you know, we don't know how the next weeks and months transpire with respect to the COVID pandemic. So I would like to suggest then that we suspend this committee until after the recess in the new year, but not adjourn it, so that if necessary, and if we do need to reconvene to continue our oversight work in the form of the ad hoc committee early next year, we are able to do so. Would that support gain the committee's proposals, gain the committee's support?
Absolutely.
Great, Chair.
Thank you. Then I see Honourable Mitchell. No. Okay. All right. Then with that all said and done, thank you very much, members, for again for your hard work in this committee. And we may see you next year, but we'll certainly see you in the House for the debate. Thank you kindly.
Sorry, Chairperson, we need to adopt the minutes of the 14th of October as well.
Sorry. There I was ending off the meeting. My apologies. Sorry, members, if you wouldn't mind just staying for a short while. The draft minutes of the 14th of October. It's as on the screen. Report back from the groups. Okay, can we adopt?
Moving for adoption, Chair.
Support.
Thank you very much, Honourable Philander and Honourable van der Westhuizen for seconding. All right, that then concludes the work of the committee for this year. I wish you all a good day further. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Chair.
colleagues. Bye-bye.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Chairperson.